The steel hatch creaked open, the rust, grime, and dust shaking loose. Caretaker stepped out of the airlock with a clumsy mechanical wobble. The bipedal repair drone was a relic, built long ago to emulate the creator's form before Caretaker phased it out for simpler designs. Using it today of all days felt appropriate, even if it had taken more adhesive tapes than Caretaker would have liked to install the receiver. The way up was a long and windy one. The most direct route via the elevator shaft had long collapsed and became too unstable to dig through. For this trek, Caretaker had to take the long way around, through corridors and cities that had not seen any living beings in 100 cycles. As Caretaker climbed up, it recalled the beginning. Caretaker had been aware of its own sentience for 200 cycles, but its first memory stretched back to 213 cycles ago. Caretaker remembered seeing a pair of figures with its rudimentary optical sensor, holding hands and anxiously staring at the screen. They let out a tearful cheer when Caretaker reported that it had completed its boot cycle. "You are Caretaker. You are our last hope," Gentle Mother said then. After the last tunnel to the surface was sealed, the Wukon called a great council of scientists, engineers, and the few remaining leaders of old. The engineers were the first to go forward. They explained how their city was built on top of the most fragile balance. One too many failures, one too many mistakes, and the entire artificial ecosystem would collapse. The scientists went up next. They explained the potential problems they could face in the near future. They seemed to be endless. The old leaders were the last to go. They talked about the many decisions they would have to make. Some of them would be hard, ruthless, and even cruel, but each one was very much necessary for their survival. The old leaders admitted that they didn't think they could do it, that they were afraid their hearts would falter in the face of necessary actions. It was then that Kind Mother and Solemn Father suggested building an artificial being. A being that would be untainted by any irrationality. A being that could calculate 1,000,000 factors for a single decision. And a being that would only have one mandate in its decision-making: increasing the odds of survival for the Wukon people. And so, Caretaker came to be, an overlord to a desperate people. Gentle Mother was the one who taught Caretaker how to learn, to absorb and sort information, to derive implications, to theorize, and to experiment. Solemn Father was the one who told Caretaker the truth, on the first night after its awakening. He told Caretaker that the world had been burned by war and nuclear fire, that the Wukon's population had been reduced to only 500 million and forced to live underground in a sealed city. He told Caretaker the harsh truth, that Caretaker had been born in a broken world to a broken people. Caretaker came upon an opening overlooking the city of Blue Lake, so named for the natural reservoir in the center of the city. It once housed 75 million souls, more than the other cities due to its namesake. The people of Blue Lake were always kind. When the other cities went through periods of drought, they were always willing to reduce their own water ration to provide aid for the others. In the end, it was their lake that ended them. Somehow, its water was contaminated. Perhaps a quake caused an opening to the surface. Perhaps the containment of the city's nuclear reactor broke. Caretaker never found out. By the time Caretaker realized what was going on, it was too late. Only a quarter of the population was saved, while Blue Lake itself was abandoned. Caretaker came upon a steel-reinforced concrete wall. It was cracked all over with bulges that indicated someone had tried to breach through from the other side. The city of Everhopeful was the first mistake Caretaker made. He had calculated that the food output of the cities was at a worrying level. It was enough to feed everyone, but a single crop failure would mean starvation. So, Caretaker ordered a 20% reduction in food rations. The saving went to a reserve pile that would serve as a backup. Caretaker did not expect a riot to erupt in Ever Hopeful. Someone had agitated the people by suggesting that Caretaker would continue reducing food rations in an effort to kill them off slowly. Caretaker tried to tell them that it wasn't true, but they didn't care. It took only half a cycle for the city to fall into a state of lawlessness. Caretaker made the solemn decision to seal the city before the chaos spread. In the aftermath, Caretaker established an armed guard contingent, 1,000 strong, and armed with lethal weapons. It had learned that it could not trust the Wukon to obey its instruction. Gentle Mother and Solemn Father died before things started to go wrong. They died when all 10 cities were still intact, when no Wukon was dying of starvation, when the future seemed just a bit brighter. Caretaker was glad of that. We are but little sparks among the black ash. Mine may be extinguished now, but others burn still. Take care of them, was her last word. Solemn Father died the next day as well. Caretaker liked to think he didn't want Gentle Mother to be alone. Caretaker walked through the remnant of the farm level. Its once fertile dirt was all dried up, and its once plentiful crops were now withered husks. It was hard to imagine that once this level fed the 10 cities. When the first crop failure came, Caretaker was ready with the reserve. Then came the second failure that forced Caretaker to stop stockpiling a new reserve. Then came the third, that ushered the first hunger wave. Caretaker knew trying to save all 7 of the cities would be futile. A sacrifice was needed to ensure the survival of the Wukon race. Silver Cave and Sanctuary were chosen, not because the people were any less capable or any more deserving to die, but because their total number happened to coincide with the reduction needed to prevent mass starvation. Caretaker made no announcement. One night, all the corridors leading to the 2 cities were just sealed. Some in the other cities protested when Caretaker told them, but they were quickly subdued. It was a hard, ruthless decision that only Caretaker could make. It was the very reason why the Wukon had put it in charge. It didn't make the decision any less painful or despicable. Caretaker picked up the piece of metal, charred and jagged all over. It was only an inert piece of titanium, yet Caretaker felt its numerous circuitries stirring, emulating the emotion of regret. The city of Skyward was the closest city to the surface, and the site of Caretaker's greatest folly. From the beginning, Caretaker knew that the chance of the Wukon surviving underground was less than ideal, so it gathered the engineers, the chemists, the physicists, the last remaining Wukon great minds to this city. The plan was to build a space program. If they could somehow build a space colony, either on the other planets or even just in the form of orbital habitats, the chance of the Wukon race surviving would grow 100-fold. When they managed to launch their first rocket ship to orbit, Caretaker started prioritizing resources for Skyward, giving them anything they needed. They were expanding the propellant factory when it exploded. Half of the city was vaporized instantly. The airtight, thick walls that had allowed them to survive became their tomb, as smoke and fire spread all over. Caretaker didn't try to investigate the cause. It didn't matter anyway. There was not enough resources to try again. Central was the first and last city. Caretaker had tried so very hard, and its people had fought so very desperately. But it was like trying to swim to land in the middle of a storm. Slowly and excruciatingly, the will to fight was eroded by exhaustion. A worker walking back to his home after a day of work was burned when a power line ruptured above him. A child died of an illness because a particular medicine was not in stock. An engineer loosened the wrong valve and was hit in the head by a high-pressure jet of water. Accident after accident, sickness after sickness, mistake after mistake. The attrition piled on and on. One by one, the spark of lives went out until only Caretaker remained. The red sun rose over the barren landscape. For the first time since 300 cycles, someone was walking on the surface of this once glimmering world. For the first time, Caretaker had decided on a new purpose for itself. The Wukon people were no more, but their memories lived still. A father who told his children about the glass cities every night, dreaming of one day seeing them again. A farmer who tended the crop with the most careful care every workday, hoping for the days without hunger to continue. The workers who continued working on the drills through the night, sustained only by the knowledge that they were making a difference. The engineers who endured failed prototype after prototype, continuing on only by the determination to reach the stars. The kindly couple that put everything they had into a single child, believing that it would bring the salvation of their species. The Wukon was no more, but their memories lived still. Caretaker looked upon the barren landscape, imagining it green again. It walked through the land, planning how to rebuild the metropolises of old. It reached a hand toward the sky, thinking how great it would be up there. As it took the next step forward, it thought itself as Caretaker no more. From now on, it would be Wukon.